Well, I'm here today with Rick Crossland. Rick is an expert on A players. He's an author, speaker. He has a firm that focuses on A players, and so it's a perfect subject for us to talk about today. And I want to talk about all these things. Now, your book has so much information, we're not going to go through every detail of it. We can't.
Oh, that's too bad.
So I hope people read it.
Well, thank you.
But I want to start off with, what is the Rick Crossland definition of an A player?
So Skip, 3 definitions. First one, top 10% of the industry. And if you think real quickly about that, that frees up a lot to your company because you don't have to force rank your folks. We're defining and we're looking for the top 10% per position in the industry for the compensation offered. So that's definition 1. Definition 2 is an employee you would enthusiastically rehire. So someone who, when we do reference interviews, we'd ask the prior hiring manager, say, yeah, totally would enthusiastically rehire. Now, if they hesitate or say, wow, he was decent, but enthusiastically, I mean, we're talking the people that, if they left, hurt. That's enthusiastically. The third is a new employee that when they join your organization, you ask, how's your new employee? How's that new executive doing? You say, wow, that's an A player.
I want to talk about managing an A player.
Sure.
Because that's different. You know, you have leaders, you have people who are in leadership positions, and they have A players. What's different about managing an A player than managing C players?
You know what, it's like when you get a nicer car, right? So let's say you get a Ferrari, a sports car. That takes some special care. And because of the high performance, you need to become a better driver. Same with leadership, right? If a leader, and I run into these folks, you know, hey, I'm fine, you know, this book's good for them, but not for me. Whoa, you know, that is B player manager tendencies. The A player is into continual development. Like that Ferrari, they are razor sharp. They don't suffer fools gladly. They can be great cultural, great attitude, but as a leader, you need to be a step ahead. And, you know, we're going to expect the A player to read 1 or 2 books a month. By the way, it's a great thing for a leader to read 1 or 2 books a month.
I'm highly in favor of that.
Well, absolutely you would be. But I truly believe it. I mean, the books I read really count more than my MBA.
Right.
And my alma mater may not appreciate me saying that, but it's the God's honest truth. You know, you need to be a step ahead, and you need to be more congruent. You need to raise your accountability. And what's beautiful is when I'm working with these executives to see the leader actually start to sweat a little bit and stay ahead.
How about B and C players, though? Do they notice you're managing the A players differently? Does that cause any problems?
You know what? What we do in the organization and how we implement is we declare to everybody, you know, we're sitting here at the beginning of March. Hey, this is the year we're going to be the year of the A player. And what's interesting is most people are really game on with that concept because for the B's and C's, we're going to give them 6 to 9 months to develop. And if a C is making progress, we're not going to be content if they stop at a B, but we're obviously going to give them more time to fully develop into an A. And one of the most joyous things is to have that B or C develop into an A player. Everybody has the opportunity, but it's earned, not given.
So you're not giving trophies to everybody?
We're not giving trophies to everybody. We're setting a high standard, and you know, just like if a good time in track is a great time in track, yeah, we're all A players. Now, you know, we're not going to cross the finish line at the same time, but if that, you know, 4-minute mile is an excellent time, then that's an excellent time.
That's the standard.
And that's the standard. And once we do that, hey, let's look at 3 minutes 55 together.
What about any common leadership mistakes or pitfalls in managing A players? Or put another way, what would make an A player leave an organization? They're just turned off.
Yeah. Flip-flop management. People can't make up their mind. You know, like that Ferrari, keep them in the lane. Lack of congruency. You know, I know you're a disciple of leadership. You know, how many people lack integrity? I mean, they say one thing, they do another. They say they have budget, you're bluffing your A player. They realize you were bluffing, you didn't have budget for them. You know, you signed up, you told them they had $1 million budget. You didn't have the $1 million budget. All those things crumble your leadership. And I hate to say it, you see that more common than not, where, you know, people kind of inflate themselves and they put on this facade. But nothing like congruency to drive results and that true alignment and candidly joy of an A player working for another A player.
Right, that's great. What about developing a culture of A? You want to develop a culture of all A players. I mean, you said you're going to declare them. Mm-hmm. What are the elements that go into that? What do you think that leadership needs to be doing? You know, the senior leadership team needs to say, we want to develop this culture of A players. What do we need to do, or what practical steps? You've worked in a lot of companies,
Right.
both before you were in your own business, and now you're seeing them all as a coach and a recruiter and an expert. What are kind of common things that you're seeing of, these things really work to create an A culture?
Right. First is a desire to do it. Let's say you were a manager, right? And so let's say you're a B player manager. You've got to come to grips and tell your team, hey, I've been a B. And I've seen plenty of CEOs and leaders when they say, hey, I've been a B player and there's a better way. And I'm going to clean up these things in my game. And when you clean them up and you make the change as a leader, then you have that credibility for others. Leadership's fundamentally about credibility. And going back to the congruency, if you are credible as a leader, and unfortunately in today's day and age, right, integrity is a pretty rare thing. I mean, just look throughout the course of a week how many times people break their commitments.
And you say, do what you say you're going to do. It means everything.
It means everything.
Everybody knows, even if it's in fact, especially if it's the minor things.
Exactly.
You ever have somebody say, "Oh, I'm gonna send you that article." How much would it be to click a link and send it? But they don't. And,
Right.
And you know they don't.
Exactly.
And you know that they never intended to.
Exactly. And people see that. So back to how do you implement this? It's a leader saying, I've got stuff in my game to clean up. We're going to do this together. And then racking up those wins and really defining that A player. We use a tool called the A player agreement that can be found on my website. I have a sample. Those are hard to craft. I've had plenty of CEOs who wanted to fire me because they take time to do. It might take you 3 weeks to get a good A player agreement because you have to define A player performance. But that's eminently fair.
It's only if they don't know, then they can't be signing up for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times with an A player agreement, the team, that it could be A's, B's, or C's, goes, thank goodness, you guys know what you're doing. And they go off and do that, and we hold folks accountable to the A player agreement.
We've talked about retaining A players, what makes them leave. I'm curious about when you first bring an A player, this is a superstar, you're bringing that A player from the industry, your definition number one was from the industry, into your organization. What do you do, what do you not do? What onboarding process for an A player?
Okay. Great question. So for the leader who's bringing this person in, what I advise them as their coach is, Skip, you've got to make sure that your new sales executive or your new IT executive is going to be successful. That is your number one quarterly priority. You've made the decision to bring this person on. They've been heavy vetted. We do a half-day interview. We use top grading techniques. We take a DNA truth serum through a caliper assessment. I mean, we know a lot about them, and we did reference checks, so we have the best odds of success. But then at that point, you can't say, and you've seen this, well, let's see how they do. You can't do the old washing of the hands. You have to be committed to do everything to make that person successful. You're the CEO of your organization. You have to hold your managers accountable for bringing in A's. And all those points along the way, but then that leadership and making sure the tools are in place, the budgets, the resources to make that person successful.
Well, onboarding is certainly an interesting topic, and I think something that all of us always need to constantly look at. When you're bringing them on, that's our perception, as the employer, as the leader, bringing them in. Flip it around to the A player. What is it that they're looking at? I mean, you do these recruiting, and so you look at this from both ends. When you find an A player through your assessment, what is it? Put us in their eyes. What are they looking at to join an organization? What makes an A player say, yeah, I want to sign up for that organization?
Okay. Well, one thing that you may not realize is how we do that, right? So when we bring a candidate to you, we ask all the leadership team to be part of the interview process. Now, a lot of organizations say, I don't have time. Well, think of the cost of a mishire, particularly for executive rank. So I asked the leadership team to invest about 3 hours, actually 4 hours because we need to debrief on the candidate. We're going to do about a 2.5 to 3 hour interview on a senior person. We're going to go job by job. We're going to ask them behavioral-based questions about what results they got and how they did it. And that's what gets you so excited about the candidate is the specifics. You did this at that organization? Wait, what software, what technology did you use? How did you solve that problem? And the answers are crisp and specific. You can't make it up.
Right.
Let's say we're all thrilled with this person. It's like, where can we sign this person up? Because of that long vetting process and the great questions we're asking, believe it or not, they have a very good sense of our culture. Mm-hmm. And by all means, we give the candidate time to ask questions, and then we do the alignment piece afterwards. But they know that you're serious, and particularly if you've had other executives come through the process who are now joining it, you've got to be an A player to be in that room.
And they feel like they know you and all the players that are involved.
Even with our questioning, exactly. And that sets you apart from your competition because you've invested far more than your competition has with the typical, hey, let's go down, hey, where's Skip? Wait, he's supposed to be at the interview. Then you never really debrief fully. Everybody is locked and loaded, and we get back to the candidate faster.
Then I'll give my board credit because we were in 5 different cities when they brought me on. So
Awesome.
Well, Rick, thank you. The book is The A Player, and all of us want to be A players. We want to hire A players. I don't know of anybody who says my aim is to be a C player. Maybe they're out there. I don't want them.
I saw a book review of Patrick Lencioni saying his new book was all, and there's a point for people who wanted to just be at the organization and push back. And I'm like, man, I hope that guy doesn't read my book.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of years and years ago in a school in Indiana, I know that there was a scholarship only for C students. And of course, it was sponsored by David Letterman. But other than that, I haven't seen many of them. But thank you for sharing your insights and wisdom in this book.
Thank you very much, Skip.
And for being an A player, coach, recruiter, speaker. So thank you very much.
Thank you.